we're killing two birds with one stone. Two farms coming together, bringing the attributes we have, working together. We two different people, two different upbringings, everything, and bringing those resources together.
Like created in Mississippi, or that kind of became Mississippi was known for the piney woods. They're different because they're smaller. You could still raise them on smaller plots of land, and you can run them through more like forested, wooded areas. And we're known for pine trees down here, so that's kind of like the benefit of being able to have them, is they can kind of clear areas.
This may be becoming some type of co-op. Pearl River Pastures is the overarching name, but we bring in other farms under that. So then the farmer isn't having to do all the marketing and all the business piece. They're just having to grow.
We can't all do it by ourselves,
Yeah.
I think. And I don't want to do everything. Like, I don't really want a garden, but I want the results of a garden. So finding people that can do that aspect and bringing it in. My hardest part is like the socialization around farming. Only because where I'm located, I'm in the middle of nowhere. So like there aren't cities, and it's not that I need to be in the city, but people my age, it's not, I'm not in a community where like I connect.
We're a partnership. So this is Sunset Oaks Farm, and we have roughly 40 acres here as the home farm. And then Summers has some more land up there at Juniper Creek Farm that we partnered with, form Pearl River Pastures.
Why the partnership?
Access to land, just kind of looking at it, it's better, I think, to do it together versus trying to be against each other per se. And we're able to basically bring experiences together and knowledge and, combine it as a team and produce more, really.
When you say together, not against each other, what do you mean by that?
We're all, instead of, us both going to the market, if we're, as two different farms, why not go as one farm? Kind of looking like down the road, this may be becoming some type of co-op where Pearl River Pastures is, the overarching name, but we bring in other farms under that. So then the farmer isn't having to do all the marketing and all the business piece. They're just having to grow, livestock and do what they really want to do.
Yeah.
And then we would have Pearl River Pastures that will say at the market or, whatever, spending that time there. And it basically, we're killing two birds with one stone. Two farms coming together, bringing the attributes we have, working together. We two different people, two different upbringings, everything, and bringing those resources together and being able to produce a better product and really more product together than not together.
Yeah, and we
That's
can't
really
all
cool.
do it by ourselves, I think. And I don't want to do everything. Like, I don't really want a garden, but I want the results of a garden. So finding people that can do that aspect and bringing it in and stuff like that.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you guys already have like the wide customer base then? And then you'd be looking for farmers that can add to your products? Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so we have New Orleans. We're blessed to have New Orleans roughly an hour from us.
Right.
So that's a large customer base that we really have not even tapped into. We're in it and it's producing for us, but there's plenty of people there to still get more products. And right now we can't produce enough. And we're trying to do it, like everybody without debt. So it takes time, it's slow. So we can't ramp up as fast as maybe we would like because we really don't want that debt on us. So with that, we could partner with other farms that are doing the same thing. Instead of us sitting at the booth together, looking at each other and splitting sales, there's one farm name there. It talks about the community. It talks about why we're doing it. But we're only using one person or two people at the market while everybody else is getting to do what they want to do on the farm to produce those items. So right now, we can't produce enough, bottom line, to support the want by the consumer. Yeah.
That's really cool.
It's great when you produce what you do and you make the money and you're selling and getting your name out there. But at the end of the day, it's so many hours of driving, sitting there, selling, and then you come home and you still have your full, chores you have to do or whatever it is. So it's hard, but it's also just the way to market and get out there. And markets are great. Like you get to meet a lot of people. It's time consuming at the end of the day.
That's really
and there's really ways for that is, swapping that out, like I'll do January, you do February at the markets, right? And so we wouldn't take away, and again, we're not there yet. We're running the markets ourselves,
right.
But that's kind of looking, to the future. That's where I think we'd like it to go, or, a model that might work for us in this area specifically. And it really, not only does it give more time back to the farmer, but also a lot of farmers getting into this. Business is not kind of what we got in to do it. We wanted to grow products for the community, but unfortunately there's all this marketing, social media, salesmanship, all that stuff built into it that, okay, wait, I just want to raise livestock. Like I want to go out there and talk to the chickens and the pigs and move them and people see that and taste it and all that, but all that other kind of consumes time. And if you don't have the experience, you're missing the boat already. So if we can bring that together, and we have people like us that come together and we think as one for a goal out there that we're trying to reach as a co-op per se, we can probably bring a lot of people together that have different, there may be people that don't want to farm, they want to do social media for these farms, and we would like to bring those people in. And have them as bought in and part of the team as well.
That's really cool. What an awesome farming enterprise. What livestock do you have here again?
So here we have basically our whole group of livestock that we're producing here on the farm, but at a smaller scale. A lot of the breeding and farrowing is happening here, and then we take them up, especially like the hogs, we take up to the other farm where we have more land for the feeder pigs to move around more. But really our specialties right now is based on, like any farm, I would say, is cash flow. Our poultry and our hogs are really where we can get some cash flow coming in based on our, our pastured broilers. The turnaround time on those are much quicker, so you're not that capital is not held up. Much like we have a small herd grass-fed cattle, and that just takes years to go, and we're in the beginning. So that's just capital out there eating, and we don't get much return for it. So I guess our specialty right now would be, pastured poultry, pastured and wooded hogs as well.
And I think we run a few different breeds too. Like our cattle is piney woods, so I think a lot of people don't know what that is.
Okay, hold up. I'm a cowgirl by heart, and I don't know that breed.
Yeah, so it's more known down here. I think they were like created in Mississippi, or that kind of became Mississippi was known for the piney woods. They're different because they're smaller, which means you don't get as much beef off them at the end of the day. But for people like us, like for Rob, I think that's why he started with them, is he didn't have, thousands and thousands of acres, and so he could still raise them on smaller plots of land, and you can run them through more like forested, wooded areas. And we're known for pine trees down here, so that's kind of like the benefit of being able to have them, is they can kind of clear areas.
So that's where kind of the name comes from.
Yeah,
piney woods.
Yeah, so they got multiple names: rake straw, piney woods, woods cattle. So yeah, they came over with the Spanish explorers, brought them over, and that was their subsistence. They kind of went feral, and then Native Americans as well as pioneers and explorers brought them back in, and they were used big time down here for the timber industry because they would use them as oxen to pull them out, pull all this timber out that other stuff couldn't get in there, and then you get advancement in that. But and then the small local communities, and it really reaches from Florida all the way on the Gulf Coast out to Texas with, similar genetics in the longhorn cattle, similar genetics, just a little bit of evolution there for them, kind of split. And so our piney woods cattle, they're horned and they got a lot of different colors, but a lot of the local names here in Southeast Mississippi is where you get the different strains within the deal there. And the Livestock Conservancy really put in the effort to bring these back, because there was a time where they all got sold for the most part out because they just wasn't producing. One of the reasons that kicked that in though was free range out DeSoto National Forest here. Before it was free range, but when they put the fencing laws up, then these farmers that are here didn't have the land to have these large cattle herds, so they took them to the stockyard and sold them. But you're also competing with these new commercial breeds that were larger, and it was what matching up, so the dollar was not there. But still, these small families kept these strains alive. So you'll have like Hickman line, Carter's, Griffin, different. It's the family name that kept those cattle. So you'll see within those different strains colors that appear that are the same throughout. But now we kind of have composite herds or specialties, and the Livestock Conservancy is trying to save these different strains that we have, and just the piney woods in particular.
That's really cool.
We have a Griffin line that we're breeding with, but we also bring in Hickman and some other lines just for the meat. I'm particularly started with the Griffin, the yellow Griffin, and that's what I've been trying to grow and raise and keep that genetics going. Yeah.
Cool. And you have them here?
Yeah.
Can we go
take
see
a look
them?
at them? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so for us, like on the piney woods, we're trying to shoot for 400 pounds hanging weight.
Oh, wow.
So that's like half
of
what a commercial cow is going to have. But if you look at it per acre, also, we're able to raise more cows. So there's a balance there. Not our top enterprise, right? Like it kind of brings back, and they're kind of workers for us. They're doing things in our woodlands up there, our pastures here. So, from a economic standpoint, honestly, we get laughed at a lot because we're taking these small cows but we're getting a return on the money at the market. Our beef tastes different and it's unique, whereas everybody else has all the other breeds. We're the outlier, and there's some marketing in that and education piece, but for the most part, they've been excellent for us, especially on this land here is super wet. So you'll see these cows are a lot smaller frames, so they don't do as much disturbance on the ground, which we want some, but we don't want too much. Like this paddock here, I was kind of just hay bombing it, trying to get, it's really lacking. So they were here and we put hay on it, and they were mucking it up, but it's not even
Well, it's not even that
hardly
bad.
mucked up. Right.
How many cows do you have out here right now?
So there's right at 20 on here.
And this was their last paddock.
They were here about 2 weeks actually.
That's really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. And it is wet. I didn't realize how wet it was. And the other day we were here and I was like, ooh, it's like a swamp back there. So
Wow, that's really cool. So you said your stocking rate can be higher. And
Correct.
now, when you talk to regenerative farmers, stocking rate obviously is the biggest variable. There is no one stocking rate. But what approximately can you stock with these cows?
I mean, you're looking at, so down here I would say it's probably like 1.8 cows per acre is what the commercial guys are doing. And we could probably push that, we're moving every day or every few days, probably more than that. But I would say you're looking at 2 to 2.5.
Okay.
Is what, if you were doing it on the commercial standard,
Right.
and you were just putting them out there, and 2 to 2.5 cows, I guess would be the number.
So, but yours is probably double that then.
Right, yeah. So we could push them a lot more dense
Yeah.
and move them, and really, watch the grass and get them moving, and you could definitely double up on that. Problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So you are moving about every day or so.
Yeah. So our goal is this year coming up is I'm going to try them every day. This past year and the years before that, I was going about every 3 days.
Okay.
On those. So
What
on
was
this
your
farm
decision
here.
for that? Was it just
Yeah, really time. Honestly, I couldn't keep up with the grass anyway with just this amount of cattle, but I was too scared to put a bunch on here and then run it into the ground. So
Yeah.
it's a balance there, and we're trying to get there. I'm new to the cattle world, so it's a work in progress, and we're learning as we go. I'm sure we do things wrong, but
I
we're
think
just
everybody,
trying,
everybody's just
we kind of went into it all in. We have a cow-calf operation and, the steers that we're doing for meat. So we're all in,
Okay.
which is probably not the best way to go
yeah,
about
Rob went real fast.
it. Yeah.
We
but-
were like partnering together, and one day I came home and they're like, we bought 20 steers. I was like, oh, okay, where are they going? Well, they're going to your place. I said, all right, well, there we go. So
yeah, so these are mainly our mama cows and the bulls here too. So he's way back in the back. He's not really aggressive, but he will come to the fence.
he says that, though, you'll be standing at the fence and he comes running at you. So
and he stops right short.
Oh,
of
yeah.
that
right
fence,
there,
doesn't he?
but you don't know that, right?
Uh-huh. So how old are these cows?
All the moms, which this is the oldest cow here. She's about 6.
Seriously.
Yeah.
These are small cows.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they don't
and
get
then
big.
the one standing up with the white, we call her Crazy Legs because she's a little crazy. She's 5 now, and then the red one's 5. So all the older cows are about between 5 and 6 years old. And then I have some first-time heifers. This red and white one here, Reba, sitting down. She should calve this year. And then there's another couple, but there's a few steers out there too from this year's crop. Yeah, there's one standing kind of in the ditch. That's this year's steer off the red cow in the back.
He looks good.
Yeah, so he's
He looks really good.
going to get weaned here
Yeah.
shortly. It's probably, we just leave them on. I leave them 6 to 9 months, honestly.
Yeah.
The longer the better. I'm going to pull them off here in the next couple weeks. I know Summer's probably on me. She says, oh, are you really going to move them? Yeah, I am. But it's just time. So,
Right.
but they're doing good. The mama's not pulling down too much. All the moms look good except for Crazy Legs. She has a bull
Cute.
calf. He's actually going to stay a bull for a little while. He's
Is it
standing
that red and
right
white
next to, there's a little red and white one right there between those 3 cows right
Uh-huh.
there. And so the one to the left, he's this year's steer,
white
well,
one.
bull
Bull.
actually. Yeah.
Okay.
And he looks excellent. Like,
Yeah.
so he's going to stay a bull for a little while. We'll see what he looks like after that.
Okay.
But we do castrate all of ours we're not going to keep as bulls. Like the steer I was talking about, I castrate usually about day 2.
Yeah.
As
Do you
soon as I
castrate,
can
not
grab 'em.
band?
Yeah, I just castrate.
Okay.
And I just grab them in the pasture and do it and
And the moms
throw
don't
them
really
back
care.
out there, and they're good.
So they're
Yeah.
pretty
Now the
docile.
mom does care, but you just
Okay.
gotta, you just gotta be,
Gentle.
irrespectful,
Yeah.
and just watch that. And,
We do the pigs together, and sometimes Rob's like, go grab it. I'm like, no, you can grab it.
so that's one of the reasons that Crazy Legs bull calf is a bull calf, because she wasn't quite as receptive of it, and she took him like way out, and so I couldn't get him. But then as he developed, I'm like, okay, we'll see. So I don't really keep many bulls, and my experience is cut all the bulls.
Yeah.
There's not many bulls out there. So for instance, that bull back there, that would be a definition of a Griffin bull. That he was actually an AI bull. He is, I don't really want to call him up here, but
That's okay.
I think he's 9, and so he was artificially inseminated with some Hickman line and the Griffin right when they're, I mean, it was
His
down.
dam was, you mean?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So it was pretty much down to the Griffins almost completely gone, that strain. And he was, through the Livestock Conservancy, and Jess Brown, who lives up in Poplarville, they have a large herd, Cowpen Creek Farm, and they do breeding stock, and they've had them since the 1800s. Their family's had them that long.
Wow.
So they're heavy in the breeding part of it, so that's where I've got a lot of my Griffin stock from, and that's one of the bulls we brought here this year, kind of keep that line going.
Cool. Are they, now they're a beef breed, but they seem a little thinner than your traditional beef. Is that because it's just winter, or is that just the way that they are?
That's the way, I mean, I wouldn't say they're a beef breed, but they're just an overall utilitarian breed.
So you can milk them?
You can milk them. There were
Really?
people, like the Yellow Griffin was one of the lines that people did milk more. And they were a homestead cow, you know, so they would do both. And then they were working too. So they would use them as oxen. The steers would be, or the bulls would be steered and used as oxen. They would do pretty much everything. But they would have them on the open range. They would bring them in, and families had ear notches. You'll see some of these have been ear notched, and ways to identify them other than just a red cow, because I mean there's all kinds. But they would be out, and the families would get together, you know, in the fall or the summer, and bring them in, cut the calves and stuff like that, and then they'd go back out. But then once they brought them, you know, straight, you know, on smaller properties, then, you know, it really started to get the breeding specific to a line.
Awesome.
But yeah, they are a little bit thinner. The mamas are look thinner because the calves are still on them.
Yeah.
But like the steers out there, if you get closer to them, they're a lot more, you know, they got a little more beef on them.
Now you said that they taste different. So how did they finish out? What's their finish look like? Or have you finished
Definitely
them yet?
leaner.
It's leaner?
Yeah, I mean, we just started being able to send about 2 steers a month the last few months, and I was very nervous about the breed, to be honest.
Really?
Like, I mean, I don't know, I grew up eating meat from the store and whatnot, and then you're like, well, they're small, they're lean, like, what are they gonna taste like? And it's great. I
Really?
eat the ribeye and the filet. I had a filet last night, and it's different, but at the same time, it's not. It's still just high quality meat that.
So it's still well marbled.
Yeah.
Is there like much of a fat cap on it at all, or is
I mean,
it
I
pretty
think it's
thin?
probably less than
Okay.
maybe your commercial breed, but there
Right.
is still, you know, a
Interesting.
good fat cap.
Really cool.
So like I would, yeah, definitely. We've been able to marble them more than I thought, really. Been excellent. And from a beef standpoint, I would say if we're looking at a commercial beef and bison, they're in the middle of that. So it has a
Kinda
different
wild.
taste, right? Like you know, you can taste the forest,
Okay.
really. Like, so one of the marketing deals we like to use is wild forage, because we send them, these are woods cattles by trade, and they do a lot more browsing than grazing. So when we take them out of these pasture settings and we put them up there, like on her farm in the pine plantations, they go through there and they're eating everything.
Yeah.
Brambles, they eat it all. And sometimes they go to those first. Like that's the first thing. They eat basically head up first and kind of work down. Now, if they have a beautiful lush pasture, they're gonna eat it. But
That's the ice cream.
you can you know, they're browsing a lot of stuff that commercial cattle are not. And it really helps, especially on a small farm when you don't have as good of paddocks, but then it just helps maintaining those, you know, pine plantations and grazing under them and all that stuff, because they love the woods. I mean,
Yeah, and it's changed our woods. My farm was originally like a weekend hunting place. Like that's
Okay.
what we did, was wildlife. And then I started getting into it, and I think my dad was definitely like skeptical of putting, because it's family land at the end of the day. So it's kind of like
Okay.
Rob and I agree on it, and then I have to agree with like everyone else.
Yeah.
But it's created, I guess, what you would call silo pastures, but at the same time, it's still in the middle of the forest. So like the deer and the turkey have also been flourishing because those animals have come in and cleared all that underbrush, and now all that natural seed in the ground is being stirred and creating grasses and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So it's like a burn too, like a
Yeah.
prescribed burn, but with animals. So it's been
Wow.
cool to watch
And
that.
so like the tool, we'll still burn up there and they'll still burn, because I mean, just naturally that happens.
Right.
So combining both of those, you actually are going to get a hotter burn or a better burn, because now it's not so thick. Now it can go through there and actually get a better burn. And we're on the first year, so I'm talking out of what I'm reading and all that too
Yeah,
on that.
yeah.
But we're going to burn this year, and I guarantee you it will be better. You're just going to get a better burn out of it. And I've seen evidence from other piney woods that are at local. There's an older gentleman that has cattle, and he's really working his farm like that, and he has some family land that was pine plantation, and that's what he's doing also. So I talk with him some, and you know, just compare and contrast. He's doing grain and stuff like that, but every man for, you know, or woman, whatever they want to do. Definitely grazing a lot in his, and it's really showing.
That's really
lot,
cool.
yeah.
So you said you're doing a lot of research. You said that you have family land.
Yes.
So what's your background?
First generation farmer.
Okay.
I did 22 years in the Marine Corps. I retired 2 years ago. Prior to this, I spent the last 10 years in the Marine Corps, like dreaming, right? Like of what I was going to do. I never knew I was going to.
Strategy.
You know, my exit strategy, yeah, because I really didn't know I was going to stay in that long, but it's fun, and I enjoyed the Marine Corps, and it paid for me and paid for my family. So, and then, you know, while in there, had kids and decided, wait, I've got to. I'm responsible for more than just me, and we're looking at things that we're putting in our bodies. So we kind of went the, you know, like everybody wanted, you know, better food for our kids first, and then, hey, well, we're part of it. And so I just started doing research from there. And as I could, I would try, you know, 25 birds in my backyard. I would do aquaponics in Hawaii. I would do just anything I could do to in my downtime.
Wherever you were stationed.
Wherever I was at.
Okay.
You know, Okinawa, Japan, I had stuff out on the patio, balcony, you know, it was just, and seeing them, different cultures, eating fresh foods, and we're eating all this processed food really kind of changed the mind as well. But yeah, about a year and a half out from retirement, we bought this property here. We have some other property in North Mississippi, but we ended up staying here. And so I had to find a farm to start it and get it going, and I had all these ideas, and here I am, and it's going well. Yeah.
Really cool. So you've been here 2 years.
So I've been on this farm is 3 years now. So we bought it actually right when COVID hit in 2020. We sold a house up there, kept the land, but then bought this property down here, and just so happens it was like perfect timing. Or
wow.
We probably would have messed up a little bit, but yeah. So that's where we've been here. We met summers really looking for processing for pasture poultry and broilers.
So
we were processing through exemption through the state of Mississippi on our front porch, just like everybody, and selling locally. And an hour from here is New Orleans, and we couldn't go there because we were under exemption and we had to stay in the state of Mississippi, so we couldn't go across the state line. So I just started looking around and all kinds of stuff. I was able to process with the Nature's Gourmet Farm for a bit with him, which that helped. I mean, that was a helping hand to get us to get some cash flow coming. And then me and Summers met through social media.
Life changed.
And then life changed. Yeah.
And in walks Summers.
Yeah. And I'm originally from New Orleans. So I grew up in New Orleans, went to school there, like my whole family's there. But we always had this property in Poplarville. So it's actually almost 2,000 acres, but a lot of it is pine plantation. And it was, like I said, I was there every weekend. So I kind of had a unique, like growing up, I was in the city, went to school in the city, but every weekend growing up, we were in Mississippi. Every holiday was spent there. All my summers were spent there. Wow. And it's only an hour and 20 from the city. So it was in really easy back and forth. Yeah. It's been in my dad's family since he was like 10 or something like that. And he's really created that place, from putting a house on it to doing the wildlife, doing the food plots, all of that. And then I had a lot of health issues growing up, and so I just never felt great. My whole body kind of always felt like it was kind of like betraying me, is what we would always say. Yeah. And I was a big athlete, so I played volleyball my whole life. I traveled all over the U.S. to do those travel teams, and my body wasn't taking it very well. And so I pretty much thought I was going to go to college for sports and ended up just not doing it. And so I went to college and I ended up being an environmental science minor. And I actually learned about like regenerative farming. And I always was like, Dad, why don't people just do this? He's like, oh, whatever. Like it just kind of, went past him. Yeah. I graduated, didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I ended up, right before COVID hit, I quit my job in insurance and took an internship through the Woofer program and went to Virginia. So I worked on a regenerative farm and I loved it, even though it was like hard work and getting up early, but it just like, I felt better and I was eating so much better because everything was off the farm, and I saw how my body was responding to that. And I'd finally just gotten like diagnosis after like 10 years of going to all these doctors. So it was just looking at my body and seeing how that felt, and I loved doing the farming. I knew I always wanted to be outside, but I was like, how do you find a job that you can do that? Yeah. So I was lucky enough to have the land too. So I just started like using it, and I got a grant. And so I built the processing facility. Grant didn't cover much of the processing facility, but it was the beginning of doing that. And then Rob was looking for somewhere to process, and so we kind of just started to partner. And my dad was like, I love Rob. Like, I think y'all should do stuff together. So it ended up working out
That's
really well.
awesome.
But we're, I mean, different backgrounds. Like, you know, I'm 26 and I'm not married, none of that. I just wanted better food and like for myself, really.
Yeah.
But then to create it for other people. So yeah,
That's really cool.
it's been good.
That's awesome.
It's
So how
different.
long have you had the processing facility?
We started building it like in 2021, I think, but we
Okay.
just finished it not that long
Okay.
ago. It just when we started building it, it was like COVID craziness, and
Yeah.
so you couldn't get anything.
Yeah.
So everything cost way more, so you were having to change the plan. I was also going through a grant like process, so like anytime you needed to get the money that you got, it was like 2 months to do that, and then
Yeah.
get the contractor. I think our doors for our freezer and our cooler took like 6 months to
Oh my
come,
gosh.
and it was being built in North Carolina, so it wasn't like overseas. It was just, that was a crazy time. So it took
Okay.
a lot longer, but I guess now it's been operating for just like a month or two now,
Okay.
like officially.
Is it just poultry or do you do red meat too?
So we just do poultry,
Okay.
but we have like a 20 by, I don't know, 18 or something walk-in freezer that we store everything in.
Okay.
So we're running in and out of that facility like every day, whether
Gotcha.
it's packing orders, putting meat in. We process, like we're trying to do every 2 weeks, and we just upped it to almost 300 birds. Rob's great idea.
Every 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Wow.
But we won't probably start that. I guess it's like March or something. We'll do like one more processing this month, next week actually.
Okay.
And then we'll kind of take a break. It's just like gets cold. It
Yeah.
gets wet, like down here. I don't think, and it's when it's wet, it's cold.
Yeah.
Like it's a bitter, not fun. Last winter was the first winter that I ever went through farming, and I was like, why did I do this? Like, you
This
have
is
the-
a terrible
Yeah, you have the
idea.
torch out there, like getting all the waters, and you have 50
Uh-huh.
pigs running. That was another bright idea of my dad and Rob getting together and being like, we bought 52 pigs and they're coming. And I was like, awesome. Like, I thought we were starting with 3, but it worked out
Yeah.
in the end. It was just a lot.
Okay.
But you have to. Like,
Yeah.
you can't stay small and think that it's going to build anything. You kind of at some point just have to like go for it
Yeah.
and do it.
No, I completely agree with that. I think
Yeah.
there's something to just jumping in and figuring it out because you can only do so many trial runs before you're just like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
You know?
Like 3 pigs isn't going to get you anywhere. Like you got to keep going.
Right.
And it was fun. I mean, and they changed the land too, watching them run through parts of our land that we had never had. We didn't have livestock. That place was truly for hunting and enjoyment
Yeah.
and being there.
Just
on the weekend.
recreational.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our neighbors all had livestock, but like we just, I mean, we lived in the city. It wasn't something that we were interested
Well,
in.
and if you're there every weekend, you're not there through the week.
Yeah.
You don't want to worry about getting a call at 2 a.m. when you're
That,
in the
you know.
city that your animals are out. Like, that'd be
Exactly.
terrible.
Yeah, and we had chickens, and so like I grew up around a lot of chickens, and I did a lot of that kind of stuff. But other than that,
Yeah, so this is, usually I was running until probably the end of November. This year we went over a little further.
Okay, with
just
your
trying it
chickens?
out with the broilers, yeah.
Okay.
And it's been good. Of course, it's been pretty dry too.
Right.
But there's just, you know, different areas of the farm. You have to know where you can put them and where you can't, because
Right.
we have standing water sometimes in areas, and if you got them there, broilers are not so good.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Especially when you mix cold with it. They're probably fine if they're wet only, or if they're hot only. But if you mix wind and water together, they don't like to survive. Right now, this is right at 2.7. There's roughly 135 in each broiler house
Okay.
that we use. We're actually going to build some new ones here in January, February for next year. Shooting for a 500 batch. We're not going to be at 500, but just we'll be at about 300. But just for future growth, we'll have it to go there.
What kind of chicken tractors are these?
They're a mixture of a lot of people's chicken tractors. I've used the Salatin model, John Sokovich, I'm gonna mess his name up, Sokovich, yeah.
Yep.
These were based off Pasture Life Farm
Okay.
down in Florida. So, but then I added some stuff to theirs, and I don't know what you want to call it, but
you can call
it's,
it Rob's.
yeah.
Rob's tractor.
Well, they
I'm-
look good.
Yeah,
Are
I'm
they
not
heavy?
against using something somebody else has done. I'm
Right.
not all for it. Like if they've done it, I don't see why I need to write a new book. So,
Exactly.
but then again, every farm is different, so not everything works for you. In my opinion, our like Salatin's model doesn't work for us.
It probably
With
doesn't
the
work in a
heat,
swampy
it's just
area.
man, and then and just because it holds the heat right on top of them, we get. I mean, Virginia gets hot.
This summer
It's just
was
a
brutal.
little bit different humidity, just swampy.
You're not the only
yeah,
person that said that the Salatin model just doesn't work down here.
and
It's hard to move, I feel like, too. I mean, like for me by myself, like
Yeah.
I would just have difficulty like doing it.
Did you have the dolly? Like, did you build the dolly?
No,
for
but I
it?
went to Salatin's farm when I was working in Virginia, and they let you like touch everything and do it. And I remember my dad, because my dad was like, when we did it, we did the same thing, a few batches like by ourselves just to like see how it was.
Right.
And I was like, Dad, I'm not gonna be able to. I mean, I can like do it. It's just
Right.
gonna be a lot. And if you're running 10 of them or whatever, and I got under there and I was like, this is not what I want to do. Like this
Yeah.
doesn't, work.
Yeah, they are heavy. And in Indiana, people can't find aluminum anywhere, so they'll use
Okay.
steel.
So then it's worse.
much, yeah.
So heavy. And we
Yeah.
were lucky. We found aluminum, so ours were okay.
And that's the ones we're going to build this year. I used wood skids this year, or 3 years ago when I built them, and they've lasted. But we're going to go with aluminum. We can get it's going to be 2.5 inch aluminum tubing.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be the skids on the bottom, and that'll give us a little bit up off the ground a little more, and it'll slide a little easier. We use a winch now off the four-wheeler ATV. Just pull them forward, and it does fine. Definitely getting a little more. Sometimes we catch on some rough ground, but getting a little higher would be beneficial. So we're going to do that, and we're just always trying to change if we need to. Not stuck in our ways. If it's something that can be fixed, let's do it. And so we're going to, adjust a little bit, make a little bigger tractor as well, and then move from there.
Very cool.
Yeah, so we have a water system too, a water line that I put in here. We put one up at her place too, but so we have water at all the pastures. During the summer, it's hooked up, and we have a 35-gallon drum in there, and it's on a valve.
Okay.
And so in the summer, we leave it like that. During the winter, I just fill it up because it freezes. So we just fill it up throughout the day if we need to, but mainly they'll get through that in a day. Or a little over. So we'll fill it in the evenings, and then that'll get them through the night, and we'll check it in the mornings. But yeah, during the summer, we got it hooked up, and they have water all the time, and we don't have any issues with it.
Very cool. So you've got them on, I think I hear them.
Yeah, they're on a nipple, yeah. So I've used the Bell waters, and
yeah.
I had decent luck with them. That worked better for us with the barrel and stuff. So
I hate the Bell waters.
Yeah.
I love them, but I hate them in the summertime, and they only grow algae in the lines unless you have like the specific tubing, and then if you can't find the specific tubing, you're like blowing in those nasty things.
Or when a rat chews through it and you go in there and I have that issue a lot.
Oh man, I didn't even think of that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have like a rat. I swear they're like, that's a good place to live. And I mean, the amount that I kill is unbelievable.
Fun.
Yeah. And I mostly get mad when they just start chewing. They'll chew through every water line. Like the next night, it'll be the next one, and then the next one. And I'm like, Dad.
How many people do you have working at the processing place? Is it just
Yeah.
you two? Or?
No, but that's one of our biggest issues. I think we would ramp up a lot faster, especially in the poultry department, because like we are blessed to have the poultry processing facility, which means, and we have to work with like the inspectors, but we can kind of do our own schedule on that and how many days we want to process and things like that. It's kind of up to us, but we can't keep workers, or not even keep them, find them really. It's been a lot more difficult than I think I ever thought. Because my, I guess, goal when you think about it is like, when I was building that processing facility, I knew I was gonna have to like be there every time in the beginning, but eventually I didn't want to work in there. I wanted someone to be able to like run it. I'm still raising everything. It's still my product, but I just didn't have to physically be in there the whole time. Because like we said with the markets, that takes a big chunk of your day, and you still have a lot more that needs to get done.
Right.
And the more you grow, the more you have customer service or this or emails, things like that. But it's just hard to find people to work in that. I don't know if it's the industry. I don't know if it's because it's not every day, but it's been more difficult.
Yeah, it's just hard, especially as a part-time. I mean, we're only processing twice
That's a good
week,
point.
every other week. So we're going to go through some other avenues. There's a small community college there close by. We're going to reach out to them and see, if part-time work, stuff like that. And then, I mean, it's a dirty job, and not everybody wants to do it, but we definitely need to find some help. So if anybody
If
out
you're
there,
wanting to make like the farm kind of co-op style, have you thought about getting other farmers in the area involved, or has there been any pushback on that?
So we found a girl who's actually from New Orleans, like I am, like went to a school that I knew. We have a lot of mutual friends, and she's only about 15 minutes from me, and she's doing vegetables in the regenerative way. And she actually comes and processes with us, and it's that cat farm in Poplarville, and it's been great. Like, we needed somebody. So she's easy. She's 15 minutes. A lot of people want to do it, but they're from the city. So they're from New Orleans. It doesn't make sense a lot of the time to drive almost an hour and a half for, I don't know, 5 hours, 6 hours. So that's just, I think we're located in a weird spot. So that's been kind of the hard part. But yeah.
Interesting. So you're on the lookout.
Yes. So
Always.
if anybody's interested.
Every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have some feeder pigs right here, and then I have some farrowing right now. But,
Perfect.
These guys will go up to the other farm here this week.
So they kind of finish out on.
Yeah, we
Seperate
usually
farm.
finish them up there. Yeah.
So when Rob and I got together, I had just bought Old Spots. That was kind of the breed I had decided on.
Yeah.
A lot of it was temperament because I didn't know I was going to end up partnering with someone and I was going to be doing it by myself. When I worked in Virginia, it was a bunch of like different cross heritage breeds, and they were just, I mean, they're feisty. Like pigs are big animals, and so they had an Old Spot, and I just remember being like, I was always comfortable around it, and so that's what I went with. But Rob had Berkshire, so I say that the Berkshire is a little more spunky, in my opinion.
They are. I would totally agree that Berkshire.
And Rob will be
The
like, oh,
Old
they're
Spot.
fine, and then he'll be like, oh, watch out, and I'm like, okay. So
The Old Spot is just like a little puppy pig.
yeah, they are.
It's
They like come
just-
running to you. They want to lay down.
These are spirited. Like
Right.
they have a little oomph
There
to
you
them.
go. Yeah. My dad is this big old guy, and you would never think, and he's out in the pasture rubbing the bellies of the pigs, and I'm like, what are you doing?
So there's 14 in that hay bale right there. They will get up in a minute.
Digging into themselves.
But yeah, they're different,
So these they're what, a couple 100 pounds, it looks like?
They're probably getting close to 100. And so we have another group of Old Spots that we'll put them with here this week. And then we're doing about 10 hogs a month right now is what we were averaging at the processing.
Okay.
And so this is like the last group of 2023, and then the first farrowings we have for this year are happening right now and will happen the rest of the month. So we have 7 sows right now that will farrow, and then we have 2 back there and then 2 over at her place that have just farrowed not too long ago. But pigs we're pretty good on. Like we've got that down, I think. We are going to do some larger size, sow sets to get a little more balance as the need comes up, because the customers are there and the demand's there. We just need to not go too fast and make sure, because pigs are kind of like rabbits. You can produce a bunch in a quick amount of time. So, and I enjoy them, but we just don't want to be stuck with them, and not be able to move them or something. And right now, all the demand is there. Actually, it's a little more than we have, so it's kind of good that we're not holding too much, but we have enough with our freezer space, to be able to keep up and kind of have everything. Tenderloin, we're not going to have it.
Yeah.
We're going to have it, and it's going to go away.
Yeah.
Baby back ribs, not going to have it. I just, if I produced enough baby back ribs, I would have so many Boston butts and everything else.
It's the same thing with the chickens. Like, you're not going to have wings all the time. Breasts and stuff we've kept up with pretty well, but we still sell out of it. It's just what's going to happen.
We used to tell our customers that we were working really, really hard to breed a cow that would give us only fillets.
Right.
And we're working as hard as we can to give a cow that will only give us fillets.
Yeah.
But that's not how cows work.
Not how cows
Not
work.
with the chickens either. I wish they had 4 wings, but they don't. So.
Yeah. They look kind of funky.
Yeah.
Maybe a little scary
Yeah.
with 4 wings.
But I think we're kind of trying to decide what we're going to do, like if we're going to just do Berkshire. But now we've kind of thought about crossing the 2 breeds to
Why is
kind of
that?
see what happens. Well, I don't know if I'm really willing to give up my Old Spots yet. I just enjoy them.
Yeah.
And they grow like a lot slower than, not a lot slower, but they are slower than the Berkshire. But I've just enjoyed them a lot, and they create a lot. They're a bigger belly animal, so there are benefits, and then there's negatives too. So kind
What are
of
the
playing around with it
Just
too.
feed more?
So I think they're not necessarily smaller, they just take longer.
Yeah.
Right? So at the end of the day, our feed bill is pretty high because we're running, non-GMO, things of that nature. So when you start calculating it, you do want things that are going to produce faster.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
And they have more lard. Like that's just, they're a lard pig, and
Yeah.
so they have more lard. And so, I think the crossing them over, I think gives us even more flavor. And the hope is that the genetics make the Old Spots grow faster.
Yeah.
Well, maybe even with these guys, because these are a slower growing pig too than like your Duroc or
Right.
further. But The lines we have on these they've been good. I've had them about 2 years now and breeding back and forth. We're actually going to bring some more stock in breeding, but then after that, we should be able to close it for a while.
Okay.
That's the hope anyway.
Hi guys, how are you? Hello.
See, they're nice and calm.
Okay, these might be, but like, you know, the other day we were moving pigs, and you know, sometimes cattle are easier to move, right? You can herd them. Pigs, if they decide that's not where they want to go,
That's not where
gonna
they're going,
So we're
no.
like doing it and whatever, and all of a sudden I hear, "Watch out, Roscoe's coming," and I'm like, "Where do you want me to go?" if he's
Up a
coming?
tree.
Like, yeah, like this is. I'm not about that, but
Oh,
He is a big guy, but he's not
his
vicious.
head is large. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're not awful. We'll see. I mean, if we need to get rid of old spots, I'm totally fine with it. But I have enjoyed
You got it
that,
on camera too.
that breed. Okay,
She said she would get rid of them.
I will, but
No,
I'm
we're
not
good.
willing yet.
We're all good.
We're gonna try. So
Well, and there's something to be said about enjoying the animals
Yeah.
that you're growing too. You're not just growing a specific breed because someone else says
Yeah.
to. And I don't mean you, but I
no,
just mean
yeah.
like, you know,
in general.
in
yeah.
general.
Totally.
So growing something that you enjoy, I think is important.
I mean, I think
too.
it helps with long term. I mean,
Right.
we want to stay in this for a while. We don't want to just be overnight and success and gone, like because
Right.
we burn out too. So that gives you something to look forward to, new babies and
Yeah.
just different stuff. So you have to have some enjoyment in it. If not,
Because you don't get a break either. Like,
Right.
I mean, I love when people this holiday season like, did you get a break? And I'm like, no. Like, I mean, it was fine. I'm not complaining about it, but just because it's Christmas Day doesn't mean, you know, pigs don't need to be fed, eggs need to be collected, eggs need to be washed. It's just how it is, and
Yeah.
that's what we chose to do. And I love being outside and doing it, but it's not a Monday through Friday, and you get Saturday and Sunday off. So you have to like what you're doing.
we'll see if they're started.
We've been waiting. We moved them I think a month ago, thinking that they were
so
going to go a
the
lot
farrowing window
sooner.
opened on the 12th, and we're a
Yeah,
little
I'll go on the side.
Yeah.
we're a little.
So I've
off
been
that, but
annoying
that's all right.
Rob like every day. So were they born yet? And they-
Do we have babies?
Yeah.
Do we have babies? So, Summers, you mentioned a good point about 9 to 5 weekends off. So you
Yeah.
kind of came from that world
Yeah.
as a child, and then you said that you worked like insurance for a little while. So how does it feel mentally to kind of never get a break?
I think my hardest part is like the socialization around farming, only because where I'm located, I'm in the middle of nowhere. So like there aren't cities, and it's not that I need to be in the city, but people my age it's not.
Yeah.
I'm not in a community where like I connect. So like there are times that I crave going to New Orleans because I do still have my whole life there. That's where I grew up. My family's there, people I went to school with. I think that's harder than the like working on the Saturday and Sunday kind of life. I
Okay.
didn't like working in insurance. I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do. I was burned out after like a month. Like I was like, this is not it. So I don't really mind the like 7 days a week thing. It's more, I think, the socialization. And that's why market is great though too, because you're going in and
Yeah.
like seeing people. So that's the part I think that's harder and people don't realize when they start it.
Being young, and you said unmarried,
Yeah.
which may or may not be of importance, but
It is. It is.
okay,
So-
okay, it is. Apparently
Yep,
it is.
there you go.
Do you prioritize like getting that social life in then, or how do you do that?
I think there's like phases. Like I go through where I'm like, oh, I need to be social. Like I need to. And then there's sometimes where I'm like, I don't care. And I'm at a weird age too. Like 26 going on 27. It's just like, I don't know. You're like an adult, but you feel like you're not an adult kind of. But
Yeah,
then you
I
have
can feel that.
friends that are like married and have been married for a year and a half and are having kids. Like it's just like, or like people that are all single, still living like they're 21. Like
Right.
it's just a weird mixture. So there's definitely phases. Like right now, I don't really feel like being social. I don't want to do anything, but in a month, I'm probably going to be like, I need to get back to the city. I need to see people. So it's weird, but yeah, I'll figure it out.
Yeah,
It's
and
not
like
the
you
end of the
said,
world.
like it's an hour and a half, so it's
Yeah.
not 4 hours.
Yeah, and
You're
like
not
I did it
spending the
yesterday.
night.
I went in, I watched the football games, and then I drove back. So it's very doable.
Right.
It does get old sometimes, like when you're driving market 3 times a week or whatever, and you're like, I don't want to drive. But you just do it, and you'll figure it out. I don't
Yeah.
know. That's all I got on it.
Just
I
tell
haven't
her to
figured
keep
it out.
whining. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, coming from the Marine then to quit whining,
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
how does it feel for you then? I mean, you were in the Marines for so long. You had a very designated, strict, specific job. And now you get to tell yourself what you're doing instead of listening to orders. How does that work in your brain?
Yeah, so I had a good career in the Marine Corps. I went from the enlisted side to the officer side, so I got to experience different levels of, supervision, leadership, stuff like that. But what I've noticed, and I've talked to a lot of veterans trying to get them into farming because it's so similar. Like it's keeping me sane doing the farming, to be honest. The mind's always moving anyway, so this helps. And in the Marine Corps, we were always either working up for a deployment or working up for an exercise, training. But there was always a goal out there. Like you were gonna get to that goal, and when you'd get to that goal, as we would say, you drop your pack, but you pick it right back up the next day and you start the next goal.
Yeah.
Well, here is pretty much the same thing. And veterans are trained in leadership, how to be leaders and get that experience of planning operations, planning different, logistic movements, stuff like that. So bringing that back to the farm and, agriculture as a sense is really, it's made for, veterans that want to do stuff like this, or just anybody really, but veterans really have the instinct and the capabilities to do that. So I've been big on bringing other veterans out anytime. Trying to talk with them about what I do, what they could do, and then a lot of them are like me that were first generation farmers. They've never farmed before. But so getting that experience is definitely something I'm trying to push. So I'm a member of the Farmer Veteran Coalition as well. Yep. We're trying to set up a chapter in Mississippi to get more veterans involved. But it's a hard work, and I have another job here, but. So trying to do that part-time too and, influence those veterans to get them out. So for me, it's really not much of a change, honestly. I retired, put the boots in and picked up a new set of boots the next day, and I was rolling.
Okay.
And it was, very similar to what I was doing before. I put out a plan and, went to it to meet a mission, and that's where we go each time. I love lists.
My husband too. So my husband's Air Force. And lists are hard. I have a list, but you're not allowed to see it. Yeah. It's going to freak you out.
It's not the same.
You're not allowed to see my list because then it's not going to be done and you're going to have to do it right this second. No list today.
Yeah.
You are heavily involved in the veteran community trying to get people out here. Do you have any pushback, I should say, from people who are nah, that's not, I'm not a farmer, I'm not doing it? Do you meet that pushback with anything specific?
We have those conversations. Not really pushback, but some of them are interested, and then some, once they get out of the Marine Corps or the service period, they're looking for another job. And farming can be hard because access to land, capital to get started. And I think there's the romanticizing of the farming, and they already know that that's not it. Kind of like the romanticizing of the service, the military, not
the
quite.
Awesome commercial.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's all that, and then there's a lot of this other. So it's hard to get people to do that and be able to do it. So what I'm looking for personally is to find ways. For me too, is access to that capital. How do we get it? Where those individuals, not just veterans, but people that want to farm, we need them. So how do we get that information and those assets to them so they can do it? Because it is expensive. You can start with just, a solar charger and some line and move 3 pigs around. But if you're going to do it as a business, that works for a homestead.
Right.
But if you're going to do it as a business, you need a lot more. And trying to do that can be cumbersome and hard if you don't have those assets.
How are you working on getting those assets taken care of? Is there anything specific that you're working on yourself, or? Yeah,
so we've looked at multiple grants. We're putting in a package with FACT. I can't remember the whole acronym, but we're going to put with them. We also, through the Farmer Veteran Coalition, they have a fund there. We're putting in a package with them, working with NRCS. That's been hard for me. Their farm's been okay. So we're trying to find all those assets. But at the same time, me personally, I'm taking notes, right? So I can pass that on to the next person that asks, hey, how's this? Here it is. We're in this together, but at the same time, I'm trying to get it for our farm.
Right.
But I'm all about talking about how to do it, but you have to do the work. I'm not
It's
necessarily going to do it for you.
Thing. The state gives so many programs and they're great, but what I've had good success with some of them and not others, and he has had the same thing, and they're hard to apply for. And if you don't know what you're doing and you don't have the experience, it's not an easy, just here's my name and this is what I want.
Even contacts, I feel like if you don't have the
Yeah.
right contacts in
Right.
places, that can make things
Just
very
to,
difficult.
you know, get something from getting stuck. Like, hey, can you go look and see if you received it? You know, so it, I mean, that could be, you know, whether you get it or you don't, and it's just having that contact. So, you know, communicating, like he was talking about, you know, interacting with the public, it's really good for us, like at markets, meeting people, customers. A lot of times those customers become your point of contact to get something moving. So, you know, we definitely as farmers can't just unfortunately hide out at the farm. We have to get out there, but there's always time for us to hide, you know, and have our me time and us time and not have to worry about it, but definitely have to get out there and talk what we're doing and what we need so people can help. There's people that want to help. It's just finding and putting those together, I think, is the hard part.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we've got sows and babies in here, huh?
Yeah, so all Berkshire. It's a sow set of like 7.
Okay.
And so they were all clearly bred around the same time. And we've been patiently waiting for the piglets. Piper, who is currently actively in labor, she has looked large for a long time.
Oh
And,
my gosh.
you know,
She's probably got quite a few babies up in there.
yeah, if she doesn't, I don't know what's going on. They always say, like, you know, the milk line comes in and it's within, you know, 24 hours. And I kept being like, it looks like the milk line's in. Like, what is she doing? I think she was probably a little overweight. She's the more dominant sow, so that, you know, happens. But she has started her nest.
Oh, it looks like she's pushing.
Yeah.
No, not yet.
But I don't know if she's had any.
I know those noises. She's definitely in labor, huh?
Yeah. It's always so interesting to me to watch them with like the hay and creating their nests. I remember my first sow that ever did it. She was completely covered except for her nose and her back end. And then they just like started coming out and they create these little like huts for them essentially. And it's cool to see.
She just has a little bit of discharge, but no babies yet.
Really?
So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on her.
I'd reach up in there.
Yeah,
If you got a glove, I would almost guarantee she's got a pig stuck.
yeah.
Is she a gilt?
No, this is her second time though.
Okay.
Jasmine,
Jazzy.
leave her alone.
Good push.
There
Oh,
we
there
go.
comes one.
There it comes.
I spoke too soon.
There
huh?
it comes.
Oh yeah.
It's my favorite time of the year.
It's so cool. And they just like can just do it and they start moving and it's so amazing. Like I always think humans are like so not adapted to the world, right? Like we need so much care and all that. And
So, as I say, I'd get a glove up there and grab her. How hands-on or hands-off are you guys?
So we're hands off. So one of these gilts that are in here, last year, her first sow now, but she was a gilt in. She had some problems. So she had one just like this, but it was like an hour later. And I probably should have went a little bit earlier, but I was just, you know, we don't do much. I waited and so I was like, I gotta go now, like, and just see. I mean, it's not gonna let her die, you know.
Yeah.
So I went in there and she had one stuck. When it came out, it was dead.
Yeah.
But she didn't have any more. So I'm not sure if they, you know, sometimes, you know, they can kind of. I never seen any discharge after that. She was good. Matter of fact, all her milk came in, but she had the one piglet. But on gilts, you never know. And so like the other gilt had 10 piglets, but no milk. So it worked out, and they were like right next to each other. So all those piglets went over to that mom, and it worked out. So, but yeah, hands-on, try not to be, but like we're not gonna let a sow die if we can help it.
Right.
But if the most part, like, you know, you said, you know, I was getting a little worried too because I checked her this morning. She had a little bit of discharge at, say, that was when y'all arrived, like right at 10, and that was the first discharge though. So still was a little nervous because she looks like she's a little further along than shit, but
You probably just helped pushing on her.
yeah, I
You just
moved her.
ate-
Yeah,
yeah.
ain't no telling. It could have been sitting there. Hopefully not. Hopefully that's. I mean, it looks pretty healthy.
Yeah, he looks good. Or he or she looks good.
Yeah. So
I know we talked about this because there's 7 of them. So, you know, essentially you start calculating how many piglets you can have. And I'm like, so how many piglets are going to be male and how many castrations do we have to do?
How do you guys castrate?
Well, Rob is the cutter. I'm the holder.
Okay.
I decided that I think that's what my role is. Maybe one day it switches. But yeah, so we do just cut. And it's worked out really
With
well.
a scalpel?
Yeah. And they're very tough animals.
come on, little
Yes.
buddy, get out of the way. Here's where I will usually help.
Yeah, the squishing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's inevitable, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily going to do everything, but if I can be here and keep that from happening, I mean, she
How-
may not even squish, but
Right.
you never know.
Yeah. How long have you had pig experience?
So I've been doing it, like I said, it was on and off until I got out of the Marine Corps, so 3 straight years now, 4 years. But before that, I raised Berkshires too. The Marine Corps, I went back to school, and while I was at school at Ole Miss, I had a little more free time. I raised Berkshires there as well. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not a super, there we go.
The umbilical cord should come out.
It'll
Yes.
come, yeah.
It does. But on some of those, it depends on where they're at and their placement.
And that could have been the problem, is it could have been ahead of where it should have been. She knows her here now.
Yep,
She is a little more, Piper is, she's a little, once she get the piglets, she was her first time too, she's a little more rowdy, protective, I say. But I think she's gonna be fine.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think that one was, it jumped spots.
He was like, I'm ready.
Got a little impatient.
Yeah.
Jasmine, come.
Good girl. Good girl.
Oh, she's got a great underline, especially for being a second parity.
And she, like, I'm telling you, it had been like that for weeks, and it kept coming in, and then I was like, I need it now.
Good
I hate
girl.
it when they do that.
Yeah,
Good
But
girl.
that's a good sign because then you know that they're going to be good milkers.
yeah. And she was just so much bigger than everyone else, so you kept thinking.
Yeah. Oh, they smell it.
Good girl. All right,
We'll
we'll
leave
leave
you
her
alone,
alone.
Mama.
I'll
You
get
hang
the
out with your
dog. Yeah,
babies.
I'll come back and check them.
How many other babies do you have out here?
So that's it on that. That's the first sow to go.
You just started
Yeah.
pigging.
So
Okay.
like I said, the farrowing window opened on the 12th of December,
Okay.
and they've kind of waited a little bit. Farrowing window was a little off, but it looks like it's going to be good for January.
There
So
you
you
go.
can see her starting
Yep.
to drop down.
Yep.
There's a lot of them in here, and they're all pretty close after her. She's
Okay.
a little bit ahead. But
This is for both of you. Have you always had pig experience outdoors, or have you had any indoor pig experience?
I only had, when I was in Virginia, it was very similar. I think we did 2 strands instead of 1. They did separate their sows like by themselves just because they had had one bad experience where a mom kind of like killed all the piglets. And I think that was just like the traumatized, like whatever. But they were still outdoors, so they had a hut and they would give birth. And so I've only seen one of my pigs actually give birth. All of the rest, I would wake up the next morning and she had done it herself.
That's awesome.
So
yeah, and for me, it was, growing up in North Alabama, people had pigs, but it was like in a stall and you had one pig in there and they would raise it up, for meat and stuff like that. So I didn't really have any experience, but once I seen it like this, I knew this is the way I was going to do it, and as much hands off as possible. And really, we do cull. I mean, if that's the best word to use for sows that are not what we need.
Yeah.
And we eat them. But at the same point, we have to be, as the farmer and the husbandry part of it, make sure we're making the right selections and getting the type of, sows and genetics we want. Hey, girl. Hey, girl.
they don't do this to Rob. They just do it to everyone.
She's doing that because of the dog and those babies right there. Hey, girl.
This is where the spunk comes in a little more.
Well, he is spunky.
And then he gets in there and they lay down on their back. And
Come on, girl.
So how are you guys doing with your management as far as business partnership goes? You both started this thinking you're going to do it on your own,
yeah.
and then you became friends and you started doing it together. So how are you guys managing your different practices? And I guess the reason why I say this is a lot of people who have partnership on farming, they are usually spouses. So how do you guys manage like that, I don't know, difference in opinion as a business partner?
I think overall we've been pretty good. Like we believe in the same things, which has been like helpful. We definitely operate differently. Like I said, he likes his lists. We do our weekly meeting and he's like, yeah, I know you're yawning already, because he's very more detail oriented, but there hasn't been many disputes or really any, like in the sense of practice wise. We might have a difference of opinion, but it's kind of always in the middle.
Yeah.
I guess it hasn't been too bad
That's awesome.
on my side.
It's been good, yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's challenge is not a good word, but it is. I mean, you meet a new person, and I already have a spouse, and it's kind of like a second spouse.
A work spouse.
But but her family's supportive, so it's awesome. Everything's been good. I'm sure there's times that it's not going to be good, but we'll work through it. Again, not to harp on the military, but I worked with a lot of different people.
Right.
And so that experience really has helped. I don't want to sound corny, but it's really helped how to deal with different people.
Yeah.
Because she can be hard to deal with, for sure. No, I'm just kidding.
He likes to say that, but he doesn't.
Well, it's good, but it has been, it is different than doing it yourself. So sometimes I'm bad about it. I know is like just making a decision and going with it. And
Right.
she's been good about just okay, that's good. She hadn't complained too much. So, but I have been better, I think, about hey, well, you want to do this way, or do you want,
Yeah,
So
he has more like, I'm kind of like, I have a big idea, and he's a little more on being able to like do it, which I don't think I would have been able to do it by myself. I thought I was gonna be able to, but I also thought, oh, I'd have a team, like whatever, and clearly that is not as easy as it is, and that's just me being young and trying to start something. So I think it's worked out like well, but yeah, and I think also our age difference is actually pretty good. Like he's in between my dad and me, which is nice.
So it's kind of brotherly almost.
Yeah, and also sometimes my dad is super involved, which has been great. I need him as well to help me because I just couldn't do it by myself. Sometimes he's like our mediator. Like I'm like, well, Rob said we can do it.
And what's good about the relationship is we have, people say family farms, but it's like my wife, she helps at the markets, she helps out here. I mean, she's a nurse practitioner, so she has her own job, so I don't like asking her, but she wouldn't have it any other way. She wants to be out here. Matter of fact, she would probably like to quit and come out here full time. She's a little jealous, but so both, it really is two family farms being ran, whether it's her mom helping us with different things or her dad, assisting. It's not just us as much as, a lot of times it is us, but for the most part, the supporting cast is excellent. And it really helps for those employees you can't afford. You have those that can help you, and it really does help because, everybody, they look at our meat, honestly, they're paying a premium price for our products. And, at the end of the day, though, the margins are slim, but the way we do it, it's just slim. So trying to find, a happy medium and build, I think is also one of those things, especially new coming into it. You think, oh, well, I'm going to sell this and that. And, in the end of the month, you're like, whoa, what do we have to survive on? Like, not much. So having that, family support is really been, essential for us. And it's going to be for the next few years as we really try to break out of that. We don't have any debt, which is good. But at the same time, we're slowly growing, which, looking at it, I think it is good too. Whereas, if we wanted a lot of debt, we could probably grow a whole lot faster. But we're just going to have to balance that and see, where the win is and not have to, because we already have enough stress besides somebody calling us for a paycheck or something.
Right.
So we'll see. But yeah, as a relationship, I think it's been awesome. Yeah, it's been
great.
good.
And financially, I would not be able to do it without my parents, especially. Just because, like you said, it is really small margins, and we're not taking things out of the company. We're putting everything back in, which you have to do. So they let me live at my family property with them, and so it's been good. It's hard sometimes, but you got to keep looking in the future.
And I think that's really cool that you're building a foundation for what you said in the beginning, that your ultimate goal is to have kind of like a co-op farm.
Yeah.
And you're kind of already working out some of those management kinks between the two of you, and just the fact that you, welcome to the 21st century, found each other online, clicked, started working together, and now you're pretty successful at it. So I think that's really cool, unique, but also has so much room for growth. So what farmers market are you at?
So we're in the New Orleans Crescent City Farmers Market. So they have 3 different markets. One's on a Sunday, 8 to 12 at Tad Gormley Stadium, Mid-City on Thursdays at the Lafitte Greenway, and then we'll be starting the 3rd one on Tuesdays, middle of January. It's in Uptown from 8 to noon. Yeah.
So if people want to see you, get some of your product, get to know maybe what you're doing a little bit better, maybe even talk about the farm co-op in the future, that's where they can get you.
Yeah, and if there's any farmers that are doing, this regenerative practice and things like that, I know, like, there's just, sheep. I said we should get sheep, and Rob looked at me like I was crazy. But just any, like, things like that where it could be added to our, like, platform would be awesome.
Yeah.
Because this year we're doing... talking about the Fat Cat Farm, she's actually working with us, and we're going to have a CSA for our consumer. So we will have the vegetable boxes this year, and our hope there is, we're giving our consumer, and our customers something they want is the vegetables, which we don't want to do. But she's going to, we're going to have that, and then, it's going to lead to other sales for us. But it's trying to, be as convenient as the store, which is super hard.
Yeah.
But making that, and again, home delivery. They can find us on social media. We're all across it. We have a website, pearlriverspasture.com. You can go there. We have an online store. It has all our fulfillment times where you can have, we do home deliveries on Thursdays to New Orleans, different areas, different times of the week, but you can get in there and see those things, and we can get them the product.
Very cool. I deeply want to thank you for just having us out and just picking up the phone and saying, hey, I'm a YouTuber, can I come and see your farm? And you're like, yeah, like, it's just so cool. And I just really appreciate you both and showing me around, and we're just so happy to tell your story, and we'll put all of those links in the description below. So if anybody wants to see you, that's where they can go.
Yeah,
Cool.
Perfect.
All right, thank you guys so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.